So we want to thank everybody for being here today. We have a full agenda as far as a presentation from the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. We have 3 presenters. We're going to break this up, so I want to give some rules of engagement. We're going to have the speakers go first for the first part of the presentation. We're going to take a brief intermission, and then we're going to come back and do the final part of it. After we do the first part of the presentation, we're going to do a Q&A, so be prepared to ask your questions to any of the members that are going to do the presentation for the first part. After intermission, we'll do the same thing. When it comes time for you guys to come and speak, there should be a microphone in the back right there. Just line up to be able to ask the questions. Okay, so just give a huge round of applause for United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. They'll do the presentation for you briefly.
Josh, Naeem, Ali.
I think we might be having a slight issue pulling it up, but hopefully that will be resolved shortly. I guess we can start with some brief introductions of the speakers. I'll start with myself. My name is Josh Gray. One of the co-founders of the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. I just want to say to the city of Boston folks, thank you for having us to be able to speak with you today. We would love to. Well, we met some of you in person in previous visits, and we look forward to locking arms again. And I'm going to pass it to my brother Naeem Wade, also to get his introduction and then to our.
Greetings. Yes, hello, Boston again, United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. Last time we met you all was back in October. We had a debate with the representatives of NARC and Cobra. It was a great event. We had a Q&A at the Mix, where we had our mixer. I got to meet many of you, and I'm honored to be doing this work for the American freedmen in the city of Boston. I am Naeem Wade, president and co-founder of United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, also Be the Power, which is our political action and education advocacy organization. And one of the things that we do at United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is fight for remedial justice for our people all across the country in various states while trying to get the same implemented at the federal level. So much of our presentation today is going to be centered on just that. What we as United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen bring to this fight for remedial justice, we believe that we have answers to all of the challenges to everyone that believes that they can shut down our push for remedial justice. We believe also, like I said during the October debate, that we are the future of the civil rights movement. And during my presentation, I will get into some of that. So again, thank you to the City of Boston, the Reparations Task Force for having us. We're honored and humbled.
Ali, the floor is yours.
Hey, I'm sorry, family, just give me 1 second. I'm having a little bit of a technical issue. Just give me 1 second.
Nah, he ain't doing just flowing. Why don't you flow for a few minutes?
Yes, definitely. I think it's important for people to understand what it is that we're doing. Nicole Hannah-Jones, author of the 1619 Project, she's, I guess one can call her a celebrity activist. My brother Ali and I went on one of her threads on Twitter. This was before she deactivated her account. And we were schooling her to this Freedmen thing. And she began to ask questions. And once she started asking questions, we were able to drop some of the information on her thread, particularly the workshop video that we presented for the city of Boston, for the community of Boston, really. And the next thing you know, she was in a podcast, or on a podcast, a live podcast with Michael Harriet, and I can't remember the other brother's name, Tremaine Lee maybe. And she was talking about the very things that we posted on that thread, the importance of understanding this status that was given to the emancipated persons in 1865. And then she went on MSNBC with Ali Belshi, and you can tell that she may have, shared some of our information with Ali Belshi, and in that, Ali Belshi opened up that segment speaking about how the Freedmen's Bureau was not established due to our race. It was, or for some type of racial benefit, but that it was established because, as Charles Sumner, former senator of y'all's great state of Massachusetts, said, these people need this not because they're evil, but because they are men who have been for generations despoiled their rights, meaning robbed of their rights. And so for her to finish out the segment on many of the talking points that we've shared with the community over the past 5 years and that we're going to share with you tonight, it shows that some people are listening, and it is our honor to present it to you.
All right, cool. I think we prepared, ladies and gentlemen. Just going to pull up the slide. Pardon me, forgive me for the
As I give you an introduction, I get that this is Ali Bey. He is the Director of History and Research for United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen.
Can you see my screen?
Thank you, brother. Yes, I can see it. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, greetings, everybody. I'm Brother Ali, as my brother Naeem just introduced, co-founder and board member of the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, as well as Youth Power Corporation. I pray that everyone is doing well and that you all have a wonderful Juneteenth this year. I believe that, this particular celebration, Juneteenth, it should be all about family bonding, and community fellowship. So today, what I'm going to do is be presenting on the historical and cultural legacy of Juneteenth from the Civil War, moving forward. Okay. So we see on the screen, that's what it is going to be presented. Brother Josh, to the next slide. Now, I've written down 4 basic bullet points, right, that I'm going to cover. The first one is January 1st, and its significance is January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation takes effect, legally freeing enslaved people in the Confederate States. Number 2, from 1863 to 1865, we had freedom which could not be implemented in areas that were still under Confederate control. That's very important and very key to Juneteenth and why Juneteenth comes about. According to Greek, June 19, 1865, you have General Granger, was the general of the Union Army that arrived in Galveston with what was called General Orders Number 3, freeing 250,000 enslaved black people in Texas. And then number 4, we have the modern enactment of Juneteenth as a national holiday by President Biden, who signs the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. So we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so here we have Freedom's Eve and Emancipation. Now on Freedom's Eve, or the eve of December 31st, 1862, this was the first watch night services that took place. On that night, enslaved and free African Americans gathered in churches, private homes all across the country, awaiting the news that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. Watch night service is rooted in African American religious tradition. In the first watch night, many enslaved African Americans gathered to pray, worship, sing, and dance. The spirit of these celebrations is still visible in watch night services today. The watch night service typically begins around 7 p.m. on December 31st and lasts through midnight as faith leaders guide congregants in praise and worship. Many congregants across the nation bow in prayer minutes before the midnight hour as they sing out, "Watchman, please tell me the hour of the night." And in return, the minister will reply, "It's 3 minutes to midnight." It's 1 minute before New Year, and it is now midnight. Freedom has come to bless their transition into the new year. At the stroke of midnight, prayers were answered. All the enslaved people in the Confederate States were declared legally free as the Emancipation Proclamation took effect January 1st, 1863. Union soldiers, many of whom were African American freedmen, marched on plantations across the cities in the South, reading small copies of the Emancipation Proclamation and spreading the news of freedom in Confederate states. However, only through the 13th Amendment would emancipation end slavery throughout the entire United States. So even though this Emancipation Proclamation took effect January 1st, and other states that were not considered Confederate states that had slavery, it still existed. So the 4 things that we take away from here: Freedom's Eve, enslaved and free African Americans gathered for watch night services on December 31st, 1862. Emancipation Proclamation at midnight, all of the enslaved people in Confederate states were declared legally free. And then you have the Union soldiers who came and spread the news, many of whom were African Americans that marched on the plantation reading copies of the Emancipation Proclamation. Then at the end here, we have the 13th Amendment, and that it's important to recognize that only through the 13th Amendment was slavery ended throughout the entire United States. We can go to the next slide. Okay, General Orders Number 3. Not everyone in the Confederate territory would immediately be free. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation was made effective in 1863, it couldn't be implemented in places that were still under Confederate control. And as a result, in the westernmost Confederate state, which was the state of Texas, enslaved people would not be free until much later, actually a year and a half later, which is June 19th. So freedom finally came on June 19th, 1865, when more than more than 2,000 federal soldiers of the 13th Army Corps arrived in Galveston, Texas. And with them was Major General Gordon Granger, who was the commanding officer for the District of Texas. Granger delivered to Galveston what's known as General Orders No. 3, and that informed all Texans that the more than 250,000 enslaved black people in the state were freed by executive decree. And those orders specifically stated, quote, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality, personal rights, rights to property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. And this day came to be known as Juneteenth by the Freedmen families of Texas specifically. So again, the takeaways, General Orders No. 3. People of Texas were informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States that all slaves were free. The executive decree was delivered by Major General Gordon Granger in Galveston. It spoke about absolute equality, proclaimed that equal personal rights and property rights between former masters and the emancipated were established, as well as the new relationship being established as employer and hired labor as the connection set of master and slave. So we can go to the next slide, which is dealing with the Reconstruction era. Now, the post-emancipation period known as Reconstruction, which was from 1865 to 1877, marked an era of great hope, as well as uncertainty and struggle for the nation as a whole. The free people immediately sought to reunify their families, as well as establish schools, public schools, run for political office, push radical legislation, and even sue former slaveholders for compensation. So the issue of reparations is not new, it goes back. Given the 200 plus years of enslavement, such changes were nothing short of amazing. Not even a generation out of slavery, the American freedmen families were inspired and empowered to transform their lives and their country. And although Juneteenth has long been celebrated, the African American freedmen community, this monumental event remains largely unknown to most Americans. Even to this day, many people don't know about Juneteenth, they don't know what it is or its origins or significance. Juneteenth was first recognized as a federal holiday in June of 2021 when President Biden signed the National Independence Day Act, Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. And most states where Juneteenth is a public holiday added it to their calendars in 2020 or later. The exception is Texas, where the holiday originated and where it also is known as Emancipation Day. Juneteenth has been celebrated locally in Texas since the 1860s, and it became an official state holiday there in 1980. So again, the takeaways: family reunification, education, political participation, and economic justice. This post-emancipation period marks an era of great hope and struggle. These changes, nothing short of amazing. We can go to the next slide. So, Juneteenth foods and traditions. What I like to highlight here are some of the important cultural aspects to the now national commemoration of Juneteenth. I think it's important that the culture be remembered, preserved, and protected from appropriation as well as commercialization. These commemorations historically included gatherings of family and friends, consumption of delicious Juneteenth foods, and later the raising of the Emancipation Day flag. The gathering of family is rooted in the Reconstruction period and after the Civil War, where African Americans relied on the Freedmen's Bureau to assist with the reuniting of families who had been torn apart due to slavery. Also, red foods are the most prominent feature on the Juneteenth menu. So, for example, red beans and rice, smoked meats covered in barbecue sauce, such as chicken, ribs, hot links, and briskets. These are also considered red foods and the most important features of the Juneteenth table. Multiple 19th century newspaper reports have been found that all called for entire communities to gather at the local barbecue pit or grounds to prepare the food and eat together in honor of Juneteenth. Also, watermelon, which had the convenience factor of being in peak season during the month of June, strawberries, red beverages like fruit punch, strawberry soda, hibiscus tea all have a place on the Juneteenth table. The significance of red foods can be traced back to the descendants of Africa brought to America to place great philosophical and spiritual value in the color red. It also symbolized sacrifice, transition, and power. Then we have the side foods known as prosperity foods. These are all about celebrating good luck and wishing the best. This includes foods such as cornbread, collard greens, cabbage, black-eyed peas, pork for those who eat pork. I don't, many of us don't. Potatoes, yams, sweet potatoes, and even potato salad. These side foods are called prosperity meals because each side actually signifies something prosperous. So, for example, black-eyed peas represent wealth. Collard greens or any dish using leafy vegetables are said to bring good fortune, and corn is yellow color, symbolizes gold. Now, for those of us in this Freedmen family who are a little more health conscious, that means creating healthier vegan or vegetarian alternatives for your Juneteenth spread, which is completely acceptable. Fish fries, crab boils, seasoned shrimp. These are also popular, dating back to coastal southern black communities where meals were comprised mostly of seafood. So we have red foods, red beans, rice barbecue, watermelon, red beverages symbolizing sacrifice, and we have the prosperity foods such as corn, collard greens, black-eyed peas, which represent wealth, fortune, and gold, seafood, your fish fries, your crab boils, your seasoned shrimp, which date back to coastal southern black communities, and then your family gatherings, which again are rooted in the Reconstruction period, reuniting families after being torn apart by slavery. We go to the next slide. The colors of Juneteenth. This is a great topic. What colors go along with Juneteenth? We hear what I like to end with. This important explanation of why Black Americans, the American Freedmen families, use the colors of red, white, and blue during Juneteenth commemorations. This has become a controversial issue as certain people consistently question the citizenship of the Freedmen families and attempt to otherize us. According to the National Park Service, In 1865, President Lincoln said, quote, "Without the military help of the black freedmen, the war against the South could not have been won," end quote. And had it not been for their efforts, we could all be living in the Confederate States of America right now. Those black freedmen fought, killed, and died for their own liberation as well as that of their families and their progeny while enforcing the Constitution and helping to save this union from otherwise sure destruction. Again, Lincoln said, without the military help of the black freedmen, the war against the South could not have been won. It's according to the National Park Service. They considered themselves, these freedmen, they considered themselves to be members of this body politic called the United States of America. And they did all of this under the red, white, and blue banner of the United States. Not the red, black, and green. Not the red, black, yellow, and green. It's no other color. We are, in fact, citizens of the United States and very much vested in, following in the footsteps of earlier American patriots who sacrificed their lives for liberty, such as Christopher Adams, a man of African and Native American ancestry who was considered the first American to die in the American Revolution. Our families, Black Americans, African Americans, the American Freedmen family, are in fact rooted multiple generations in this country and are invested in a way that no other group of people are. We have blood and sweat equity in this country that nobody else has. I want my Freedmen family to understand that we're much more than descendants of slaves or emancipated people. We are they who have saved this nation on many occasions and are in fact the true heirs to a vast estate, and justice is in fact due. So we can go on to the next slide. During Juneteenth place. The signing of the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law should not be seen as just some mere symbolism. It should be viewed as federal acknowledgement of the crimes against humanity that this United States government allowed to be imposed on a whole segment of its citizenry since its founding, in spite of the principles of liberty and unalienable God-given rights embedded in its cornerstone 1776 Declaration. So, in closing, I'm calling upon Black Americans, the American Freedmen families specifically, to accept the duty of ensuring that this holy day of Juneteenth is protected from cultural and historical appropriation, as well as commercialization by corporate America or other actors. We are living in a time where culture vultures have come out of the woodworks. They're shameless and would not think twice about appropriating and ultimately erasing the history of our particular plight. In this country, I leave you all with these principles. The principles that I stand on, and those are the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I thank you all for your time. From Brother Ali, he's power, and the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. One love to all of the Freedmen families. Peace. Thank you.
Let's give a huge round of applause for Ali Bey. I call him the professor. There's a lot of knowledge in this organization, and I thought it was appropriate to have them as a community partner present at this particular time, right before Juneteenth, to explain Juneteenth and also the legacy of slavery. So you're gonna hear two other presenters right after this. So right now, does anybody have any questions with regards to the history of Juneteenth they wanna ask? Any questions? Okay, can you stand up at the mic over there? Are there any questions online?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so when we do questions, we're gonna alternate between in-person and online, just to give people online a fair share. But the microphone is right there. There's just an order. We have standard order procedures. You have to stand in line. And also the mics are back there. Hi, how are you? Do you want to address yourself and introduce yourself? And the mic doesn't work? Okay, go get it. And I want to thank everybody again for appearing today. This is the last of our series of community partnerships, and I thought it was important to, again, tie it to the legacy of slavery and also Juneteenth. So I really appreciate everybody being here. Give yourself a round of applause. Your question?
Hi there. Hi there. My name is Makala Benberry.
We can barely hear you.
My name is Makala Benberry. My family is from Boston from before 1900. I just found out that I have a relative, Fortune Howard, that was at the Royal House.
Yes.
So that's why I'm here carrying this flag.
The true flag.
I understand the RGB, but the RGB was 1920. I know we didn't mention that. And there was no RGB back when
no, there wasn't.
Ranger ruled into Texas. So we have to, at least I beg you, Pan-Africanists, to please include us as Americans. Every generation of my family that I can trace back has fought for this country under red, white, and blue, not RGB. And I understand the disassociation of RGB and the inclusion of the whole diaspora, but there is no more of an American holiday than Juneteenth. And I just want to say that
thank you so much for that.
You better add some red, white, and blue.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Mister, excuse me, want to step up to the mic? How are you today?
Good. My name is Charles Owens, and I had one particular question, but that might even be, fulfilled in some part of this presentation. But the first part of the educational part was very inspiring, and my main question is, what are you going to do to the public to get this reparations out there? Since this is the first year?
Are you asking what are we going to do to reach the public?
Yes.
So we are people on the ground. My organization has been on the ground all over the place educating people on American Freedmen. We also have a marketing team that has been social media, getting the information out to people. And the task force and Mr. Feaster gave us the green light to do like ads on the buses. All this stuff has been done, initially. And it's being revamped again. So we're trying very hard to get the community involved. And I myself have pled to the community because I really am on the ground every day talking to people, trying to get them to come to the task force meeting. I just can't do it by myself anymore. I'm tired, I'm not gonna lie to you. So I just feel like when you have people in the community speaking and they're asking you to come to the meeting, it's for a reason. Right. This can't be done without the community. The community is the harmed party. And so if you don't come to the table and you don't intermingle with the task force and the city, your voice will never be heard. And so it has to be community driven. You have to be able to say what your harms are and how you want to be repaired. And it can't be done without you. And so the task force has been diligent to have meetings, to present themselves. We did community partnership meetings. I don't know what more to do. So we are gonna we came up with a whole other process. We'll be tabling outside here in Nubian Square. We'll be having the buses that have the advertisements on them, a billboard possibly on the Edison building. But it takes, everybody has to bring 10 friends.
Right.
So if I tell you about it, bring your family. Everybody has to help out because we're the only group of people that aren't at the table representing ourselves. We have to be here. Again, it's about your story, your harms, and what you want out of reparations. So we're trying very hard.
That's great.
Did that answer your question?
Oh, it does. It does.
Yeah, we try very hard. I know that to be true. Next person. Ms. Sharon. Okay. And I just want to announce that Sharon is running for City Council in Hyde Park.
District 5. That's right, District 5. Can I get? That's not why I'm here, though. First, I want to commend the brothers that did the presentation, and I want to give a shout out to Antonia Edwards, because
Thank you.
I know all the work that you've done, and you're an excellent addition, along with Brother Joe Feaster, who
Yes.
I've known forever.
Yes.
Task Force.
The task force
And
is
so,
great.
I want to talk about the significance of Black Americans driving this conversation.
Yes.
As I watch other people and other ethnicities capitalize again on our sacrifice. I've already attended Juneteenth celebrations, and we get lost in the conversation. The original harm party gets lost in everybody else looking at a perception of money for people of color. That's another whole conversation. So first, I want to say thank you to these brothers who talked about the office of the actual establishment of the Bureau
Of Freedmen Affairs.
of Freedmen Affairs, and that it actually was official. I mean, they didn't. I don't know if the next presentations are going to talk about what happened and why 40 Acres and a Mule didn't happen. I'm not sure about the rest of the presentation. Second thing is that I want to commend the Reparations Task Force for not giving up this conversation, because we're getting lost. And then the question that I have is, how do we continue to support the Reparations Task Force as you go to fight for the original harm party, the people in this country that should be at the forefront of this discussion in reparations? What can we do to support you? I understand there's legislation. Is there something that you need us to do?
So first of all, I want everybody to give a huge round of applause to the task force. Mr. Joe Feaster, stand up, please. Mr. Joe Feaster is an attorney. He's been honoring several organizations this week. His very, you want to speak? He wants to speak. You want mine? Okay.
Thank you very much, Antonia, but I think it's not only me, it's my fellow members.
Right, exactly.
Dorothea Jones, the Reverend Mariama White-Hammond.
I was going to introduce everybody.
Byron Russian, but Antonia has taken on this particular task in order to bring the community into the conversation. One of the things that we've said and we consistently wanted to do was to make sure that the community was involved. And I see some of the regular faces of the persons who have engaged in this process. Now, I repeatedly, every time I come to the mic to talk about this, I try to remind folks of what our responsibilities are, how we intend to carry it out, what the time frame it will take in order to do it. Now, we are in treacherous times at the moment with regards to our history. But folks, we've been here before.
Yes.
This isn't nothing new. We've been here before, and we will survive these situations as well. But the task force is staying focused on what its responsibilities are, as was given to us back in December of 2022. We were asked to look at the history, to do the type of research. That's why Antonia had this conversation today on Juneteenth. We have researchers who are researching the history, and as a lawyer, I know that folks aren't going to talk about repair and reparations for us without a fight. So we have to be grounded in a factual argument. So we're going to do that. And I know for some, they say that the time has been too long, but we have a responsibility to do it right. I tell folks this has been going on for over 400 years. Don't rush us. We're going to get the job done in order to do that with your help. So there will be time frames that will be talked about after these presentations, but I just wanted to come up and say, thank you. Antonia, thank you for this evening. Thank you, the brothers who presented on Juneteenth, the history of that. That was very enlightening, even from some of us who think we know the history. Right, exactly. To know it as detailed as that. And I also want to thank my fellow task force members for being here.
Can we give them a round of applause, please?
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. I also want to recognize the city. Khalid Mustafa is our project manager. We're in communications almost every day. He makes this happen. Stand up, Carly. All right. We have Lori Nelson out back. She is a senior analyst to the mayor. She oversees the Equity and Inclusion Cabinet. Give her a huge round of applause. Maya Guetta is out back, and she is the executive deputy director. I got it. So these people help put us all this together. So there's more people behind the scenes you may not see here today, but it takes a huge unit to make this happen. So supporting this Reparations Task Force means that you support the Equity and Inclusion Cabinet as well too, who puts a lot of hard work talking directly to the mayor to make this happen. Any other questions?
Thank you, Antonia.
Thank you.
Edwards, thank you for all you do. Thank you for the Reparations Task Force. And I'm just standing up here to support our flag, the red, black, and green. It is the flag of our struggle in this country. It is for all our ancestors who are not here present, who struggled, who died, who fought tirelessly for us to be here in this community. And they made their mark on this community and black communities across America. The red, black, and green, the red for our blood, the black for our color, and the green for our promised land. We cannot discount our ancestors, libations to all those who fought this hard fight and continue to fight this hard fight for the freedom of our people. That flag means for the freedom of our people. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify something. This is about the historical part of the legacy of slavery and what the true meaning of Juneteenth is.
Right.
So prior to the Pan-African liberation flag, this red, black, and red, white, one second.
Yeah, that's not a Pan-African flag. That is a black freedom flag.
Right. Can you let me finish, please?
Not Pan-African.
Can you let me finish, please?
Yes.
Prior to the black liberation flag, I didn't say Pan-African, there was the red, white, and blue Juneteenth flag that she's carrying.
We never seen that. No black people had that flag in their house.
Okay. So
no black person had that flag in
Texas
house
they did.
Well, not here.
And here too.
And I know across America, black people had the red, black, and green flag in their house and will always have that in there.
So let's just stick to the presentation. I'm not here to argue. This is a wonderful
and they weren't Pan-African.
This is a wonderful celebration, and I don't want anybody to ruin it. It took a lot to put this together. This is not about a debate or discussion. This is about history. So, Brother Ali, do you want to come back on and explain the red, white, and blue for the Juneteenth again, or are we all set?
Well, actually, there was a question in the chat that Brother Herman asked. But we could maybe address. I think it would be great to go along with the reparations conversation.
Yes.
If that's cool.
Yes, please.
Can you see the chat, sis?
I can't see the chat, but the gentleman can see the chat. Can you see the chat, please, to answer the question? There's a question in the chat.
Can I see it?
Just go ahead and read the question out.
Would you mind reading the question out?
All right, so Brother Ern asks, can you explain or tell us the connection between reparations and the holiday of Juneteenth?
Right.
What does it signify?
Right, that's what this is all about.
So in terms of what Juneteenth actually signifies with regard to reparations in that conversation is basically justice delayed. Juneteenth signifies the freedom deferred. Slavery had legally ended in federal states, but the slave people in Texas continued to labor under oppression. So similarly, reparations of justice delayed are promised in theory, but never delivered in practice. The famed 40 acres and a mule was proposed in 1865, the same year as Juneteenth, but it was quickly rescinded. No compensation, no restitution, no resources. So there is a very close connection between justice delayed, emancipation, and remedial justice that we're seeking today. I I really don't want to touch too much on the red, black, and green.
No, we don't want to talk about that.
That's something that people will have to do. People feel a certain way about it, right? And I get it. I get the point that the sister's making. I understand it completely. However, like I said in the presentation, the fight for liberation in this country happened under the red, white, and blue. And the men that fought fearlessly, that fought, killed, and died for their liberation, the liberation of their families and their future generations, did so as American citizens.
Right.
They were not others. They were Americans. They weren't Africans. They were American citizens who were fighting for the human rights and the rights of citizenship in the United States. It had nothing to do with Africa. We love Africa. We are not going to deny our African ancestry or the struggles of African people within the diaspora. None of that is being denied or ignored. But the truth of the history of Juneteenth and the struggle and the fight for freedom and liberation in this country happened under the red, white, and blue with people who deemed themselves to be true Americans. This is why they didn't want to go back to Africa. With the Back to Africa movement before God, when the Europeans in this country were trying to get people to go back to Liberia. The vast majority of the free people who they were trying to go back to Liberia decided they did not because they were firmly rooted here. This is their country. This is our country. This is just as much or more so our country than anybody else because we are firmly rooted and deeply invested here. So I get all of the emotional connection to the red, black, and green, but the red, black, and green flag is a foreign flag to us, in truth. In truth. And there's more that I can say about that flag, but I don't want to get that deep into that.
Thank you, Brother Ali. I'm going to queue up for, who's going to go next, Josh or Brother Naheem? And while we do this, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Frugal Bookstores. Mr. Leonard, can you step up for a second? He provided all the books from Here to Equality, free for everybody here this evening. Dr. Sandy Darity is the namesake of my organization, In Solidarity with a capital D, and talk to him very frequently. He has the blueprint to reparations, and so Mr. Leonard from Frugal Bookstore gave out the book here free to everybody, so make sure you get a book. In the bag is also the bookmark and also a pen. We're going to ask that you guys do the evaluations before you leave. It's very important that we get this feedback so that we understand what's going on with the community and what the concerns are. So please make sure you fill those out and get them to me before you leave. Who's coming next? Yes, ma'am, you have a question? You don't have to move. You don't have to move. You don't have to move.
My name is Lizella Reed, and my uncles, my cousins fought in the wars, but I came late, so I don't know where to start because no one has informed me of what was going on. But I have asked a couple of people that showed up at the coffee hours. My uncle had a home over on Rutland Square. They tore that home down and built the park. And what I've been begging and asking for, then I got sick for the last 2 weeks, if they could just put a little plaque or something with his name in the park, because he did have that.
Sorry, ma'am, we just want everyone to hear you very well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Did everybody hear me?
Yes. You're asking for a plaque for your uncle.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, it was 5 uncles that went in service, and then there was about 5 cousins. But this particular uncle, he did own that land, and they asked him to move or vacate or whatever, move to another spot. So, but since I see it's a park, I feel like his name should go down in history as a plaque, and a plaque on the ground in the park. That's on Rutland Square and Columbus Avenue. Thank you.
No, thank you for contributing that information. Are you able to write? Are you able to write? Okay, on the evaluation, put on the back of it what you're requesting. These all go to the city, and so we try to get the community to interact with the city with their requests in writing. So if you can just give the information on that and put your name on the back of it, I can see if somebody can get in contact with you. I'm not quite sure what his historical context is in Boston, but if you're requesting something specific, like for him to be acknowledged because he fought in all the wars as an American freedman, and you want to have him recognized because the property was taken away from him, eminent domain, am I correct, Cease? And so let's just see what we can find out. I can't make any promises.
I know.
Okay, we were just talking about Juneteenth.
One more question.
No problem. You got it, thank you so much.
I know you're talking about Juneteenth, but what has happened to me, I lived to be 85. I
can't tell.
And I found out that the town right next to Macon, Georgia, has the same name as I have, Lizella. Okay. So, and I can't find that in no bookstore, nowhere around, but I did see the book when I visited the town. I've always wanted to be Baptist. When I went down there, there's this big, gorgeous Baptist church named Lizella, Georgia.
Wow. It's quite possible that your family is structured in that area. And so you'll probably need like a genealogist to help you figure out where your family is in that area since it's Georgia. I can make recommendations. I know you can probably get somebody to help you to do.
I'd just be fine if my uncle would be recommended.
Okay, so make sure when you fill out the assessment, you just put that little bit of information on there. Make sure that I have it. I'm not quite sure what can be done, but if you feel as though he was wrong by seizing the property, eminent domain, and he was fighting, and the families fought in all the wars, and you want to tie that to reparations, let's see what we can get done. Nothing beats us right to try. Anybody else have a question? Anybody have anything to say? Hi, ma'am. I'm going to walk up to my elders. I'm just really polite. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just want to say that my father talked about his grandfather being from Africa, from Senegal. And I've been there many, many times now. And I don't think that, I mean, I agree with the red, black, and green. It didn't really come into play until Marcus Garvey and the history. I get that, I totally. However, I can't even imagine that my great-grandfather didn't want to go home, which is Africa. So I'm just saying, we don't want to take that out of the, not the vocabulary of what we're talking about here. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's it. I mean, some people are, I ain't no African, I ain't come from that, whatever. The point is that we don't want to take it out because it just really connects us to the beauty of us as a people. And when you go there, you see everyone who looks just like us. So, yeah, I just don't want to take it out. That's all. The red, black, and the red, white, and blue, I get it. You know, my father was a veteran, and he fought and didn't get his GI Bill. Okay, yes. So the point is that I don't take it out of the conversation in terms of Africa. I just felt that kind of energy when the sister was talking about red, black, and green, and we ain't dealing with Africa. We dealing with we're dealing with a circle. Same thing with the brother or whoever his name is.
So can I just clarify something? I'm just. Okay, let me just clarify something from Antonia's perspective, and then Brother Ali, Professor Ali has said it twice. Nobody is taking away anybody's ideology, beliefs, or wanting to be in Africa. That has nothing to do with today. Today is about the history in the United States and what Juneteenth really means. And it was important for people in the community to understand the legacy of slavery, which those presentations are coming up right now, and how it ties into Juneteenth. A lot of people don't know. When I walk up to people, they're telling me they never heard of Juneteenth before. They that's my job. My job is to educate people, and that's what this is all about. If I had to have this team come here today, this is what it's all about, the legacy of slavery and the true meaning of Juneteenth. It takes away from no one else's ideology, beliefs, or wanting to be in Africa or the diaspora, whatever. I don't want anybody to feel disrespected. That has nothing to do with the presentation. We're just talking about the legacy of slavery and how that pertains to Juneteenth and the real meaning of Juneteenth. I talked to a lady who said she never even heard of slaves being freed in Texas 3 years later. And that's what Brother Ali was saying. The slaves in the Confederate States were freed first, and then they were pushed to Texas, and they were misleading them to believe that there was no freedom. And those slaves stayed enslaved for another 3 years. And that's how we got to Juneteenth. But a lot of people that I go into the community and talk to don't know that. And all this is on the books. This is law. That's what I want people to know. So I really respect you. I don't want anybody to think that this is disrespecting anybody's ideology or belief. This is about what the true facts are in the United States and what the true meaning of Juneteenth is.
One more thing.
Sure.
And it really bothers me when you say the slaves, because they were people.
They were.
And they were enslaved African people.
They were.
They weren't slaves.
Okay, I can agree to that, and I can change the verbiage, but we're talking about those who were enslaved, but then enslaved in Texas. I can change that. That's not a problem. I can agree to that. I'm not beyond a reapproach. I will definitely lead to the elders. I really respect that correction. I know. Does anybody else have a question? You want to go up to Sam real quick? Because we have 2 more presentations, and we got to... Okay, so Sam, can I do the presentations first? Is it about the Juneteenth? Because we're going to move on from Juneteenth. Okay, let's do the presentation. Who's next? Is it, I can't see them. Is it Josh or is it Brother Naheem? Who's ready?
Josh.
Hey Josh, you ready to go?
Yeah, hold on.
Thank you.
Right, so I got my presentation queued up. Let me just share my screen here. Hold on a second. Let me get out of here. And oops. All right. Oh, here it is. There we go. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
I can't hear anybody. Can you see my screen? Just want to make sure you can see it before I take off.
Yes, you can see the screen.
Hello? Okay, cool.
Hello, can you?
Thank you, everybody. Once again, my name is Josh Gray. Actually, born and raised from Virginia. I have some family members that actually relocated to Boston and long-time community members. I was up there a couple times over the last couple of years. So I just want to say I'm excited to present this information to you today. What I'm going to be talking about, first off, is the number 8. You're going to hear that as a consistent theme. And where do I get that number 8 from? Well, we're talking about $8. That's the median family wealth of Freedmen families in Boston. And that is an extreme travesty. So today, as you want to listen to this presentation, I want you to keep that number 8 in your mind. And if you want to reduce it to 0, as a symbol of being negligible, that's fine too. Especially when you want to compare that to, let's say, white wealth, median wealth is about 250,000. And this is according to the data over 10 years ago. Okay, so my goal today, yes, we're talking about Juneteenth, but we want to talk about what is present in our lives today, what is actionable in our lives today, so that we can resolve this number 8. So we can actually move towards the justice that the Boston Freedmen should have in getting justice for the atrocities committed to the ancestors. So, and because I was listening to some of the individuals speak, and they're talking to stories that I hear from one of my family members, whose son actually spent many years in Boston. He was my uncle. He lived in New Jersey. He moved up New Jersey from rural Virginia. My great-grandfather was a farmer who grew tobacco, sweet potatoes, things like that. And he went and got advanced degrees at St. Paul's University in Lawrenceville, Virginia. He got 2 degrees, master's degree. And he was in the military, all that great experience, and he moved to Harvard. And he was trying to get just work in this field, which is electrical engineering. However, due to racism and, he couldn't get access to the unions. And we found out later at his funeral that he spent much of his life, depressed and disappointed for not being able to live out his dream working in the field he wanted to. And he ended up opening up the TV repair shop and did okay. But when I think about the opportunities that should have been available to him, you can see how these type of denials can pile up and compound over generations, and they can create that chaos, okay? So today, I don't want you to get intimidated, okay? I'm going to speak in some legal terms, but I'm going to try to translate it in 10 words or less. So, I can't see you, but what I want you to do, if you ever read 13th Amendment, I just want you to raise your hand. Look at your neighbor and see how many people raise their hand if you ever read the 13th Amendment. Okay, just want to keep that in mind. So, this is our roadmap for today. Our roadmap today is we'll begin with the foundation question. What does status mean in American law policy? From there, we'll apply the framework to freedmen, the class of people created by emancipation. We'll then move through each of the 4 types of status types, or what I call the 4 pillars of freedom status, and connect it directly with the case of reparations and current efforts in Boston, as well as on the Massachusetts state level, like the bills that were recently introduced by Representative Randy Flugarine. We're talking about H.C. 96 and H.B. 3879, because these are very, very important right now. Okay, so let's unpack what we mean by status. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Okay, think of status like an ID badge. Okay, it can open doors or it can slam. All right, let's see which badge most of us wear in our real life. So I want you to think about it. Don't be afraid, you can shout out. I'm giving you the open invitation shout out. Oops, sorry. I'm trying to move this Zoom thing out of it. Give me a second. I want you to shout out which status in this table you think affects you today. When you look at when you think about your marital status, okay, your disability status, okay, your veteran status, if you're pregnant, if you're a citizen, if you're a non-citizen, if you're a stateless person, you're undocumented, all of these statuses, okay, they affect your life. They about where you've been, where you are today, and where you can or can't go in the future. So status is very important. And the 4 pillars of status we're talking about legal status. And the legal status is like a category that defines rights, obligations, or restrictions under laws. I gave you the example. Political status, a person's relationship to a state governing or governing authority, or you're a citizen, you're not a citizen, etc. Socioeconomic status. What's your social standing? Okay, are you working class? Are you low income? Are you elite? Are you affluent? And then protected class status. So a group can be shielded from discrimination by law due to historical or structural disadvantage. So I want you to think about the freedmen, the group who came out of slavery, who who endured all kinds of atrocities in America, as a group that should have protected class status, not just as members of, or classifying themselves as members of the black race, but as a group who experienced historical harms and therefore remedial justice is due. Let me continue. So I'm just gonna kind of find different ways to drive what's going on. So let's walk through. All right. So legal status. Freedmen were formerly enslaved by the U.S. Under the U.S. It was permitted. Until the 13th Amendment. We can say it was actually unconstitutional, but nothing was done to end the institution of slavery until the Civil War and the 13th Amendment, etc. Political status, of freedom. So this is how status is intertwined with the freedom context here. We're denied political rights and selectively enfranchised in the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, and 15th Amendment. These are what we call the Reconstructive Amendments, the Reconstruction Amendments. The social and economic status of freedom, why I just told you. $8 a ball. And I'm sure the number is not too different in many other places, especially being that the freedmen, for the most part, a lot of people have been forced to move out of it because it's becoming too expensive and various mechanisms have dispossessed them of their residency in the city. We want to talk about protected class status. So, freedmen should be eligible for legal protections and prepare programs based on the government inflicted harm. So, here's what I want you to understand. Here's what I want to leave with you. And I'm not supposed to be in that, but I won't be too long. But I want you to understand that when we say freedom, we're not talking about race as far as freedom is a status, not a race. It's a government-created, legally documented condition, and it carries consequences today, okay? Very important key to understand. I've pretty much just repeated that. So I want to give you a timeline of freedmen as a legal class. So 1819, 1865, to various degrees, the institution of slavery was developed, and then eventually it was codified in U.S. law in 1865 with the 13th Amendment, with the abolition of slavery. There were other laws that served to facilitate slavery, such as the Fugitive Slave Law and others. 1863, Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Lincoln, ordering the emancipation of the enslaved in Confederate states and rebellion. 1865, 13th Amendment is ratified. We're supposed to, that's constitutionally guaranteed abolition, except for if you were convicted of a crime. And then what's also important about this 13th Amendment that a lot of people don't understand is that Section 2 gave Congress the authority to make the appropriate legislation to enforce the 13th Amendment. And so that's how you get some of these other acts later. The Civil Rights Act 1866, the 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, the other Reconstruction Acts. And that gives the authority of Congress to do the same thing today, to eradicate, this is key language that was very key to Thurgood Marshall in the Civil Rights era Supreme Court case, to eradicate the bad incidents of slavery, okay? So, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. So we got the Freedmen's Bureau. A lot of people don't know very much about the Freedmen's Bureau, but this is where they say, hey, something has to be done. Something has to be done. We have these people who've been emancipated into homelessness. They've been emancipated into their families are broken and scattered. They are in poverty, they're starving, and we have these Confederates that would still trying to kill them and terrorize them. So we need to have an agency that handles their affairs. So they call it the Freedmen's Bureau, and they said, we need a Freedmen's Bureau, not because these people are Negroes, but because they are men who for generations have been despoiled of their rights. That's very key. And there's a case that affirms the legal meaning of freedmen happened in 1865 and 1883. Fairfield v. Lawson is the case that happened in the state of Connecticut. It affirmed that this freedman status is inherited. That means that when you hear the term freedman, free from what? Free from slavery. Okay, but this is not just a term that's applied to those people who were free. It is also inclusive of those individuals who were heirs, who were descendants of those people. And all of that group, the family members that come to the progeny of those originally emancipated, are constitute a class that we call American freedmen. And today, just in recent times, 2025, we have 2 bills introduced on the state and Massachusetts level that serve to groundbreaking stuff that serve the freedmen in 2025. We'll get into those. All right, so that was legal status, okay? So that was the first pillar. Pillar number 2, political status. So, if you can raise your hand again, I just want a quick show of hands. Who knew that Bostonians technically won the vote, the right to vote, 140 years before the Civil War? Okay? Now keep your hands up if you think they actually got to use that vote. I can't see it, but I'm guessing some hands up there. So that gap between law and reality is what we call political status. That's what political status is all about. So now we're going to talk about a term that, let me break these down. So the post-Civil War status, you got, we went from property being recognized as property, not citizens. Now, we will always were citizens. We were citizens. It's just we were denied right to citizenship. That's a key point to remember. If anybody has any questions on that, we can get into the question and answer. We barred from voting in most states. Free were legally barred from voting for political participation prior to the Civil War. Look to Massachusetts. Technically, gained suffrage in 1783, but as you know, that really had an extra. After the Civil War, we got those Reconstruction Amendments, and it redefined our political status through federal action, right? The political status of freedmen tied directly to the previous condition of servitude, not race. That was the 15th Amendment, So this is what I want you to understand. Our political status is tied to previous condition of servitude, not race. And when I say previous condition of servitude, that is what we call the stain of slavery. And that is something that you inherit. That is the stain of slavery. That's something that we've been enforced to inherit because America's not done, they overthrew Reconstruction. They overthrew Reconstruction. So what happened after the Civil War? Well, when they set up these Reconstruction Amendments, when they set up the Freedmen's Bureau, when a lot of people don't know, you know about 40 acres and a mule. Well, some of the freedmen got 40 acres and a mule. It was actually reneged on after they killed Abraham Lincoln. And President Andrew Johnson took his place, reneged on the 40 acres and a mule. He withdrew Special Field Order 15 or 40 acres and a mule. He gave blank pardons to former Confederates. He put in provisional governors back into the southern states that were Confederates. And essentially, not only that, he tried to veto all the Freedmen Acts and the Reconstruction Act. And he basically stripped those freedmen of the 40 acres and a mule. He made sure to block any action that served to carry out the work of Reconstruction. And that's why many people in history deem him the worst president in American history. Some people may feel otherwise today. I don't want to get into that, but for the purposes of this discussion, and because after Reconstruction, followed black vote, disenfranchisement, poll tax, literacy tax, freedom faced deliberate suppression of voting and civil rights post Reconstruction. Okay, and then a lot of that is still today when we deal with the effects of that. So I just want to bring up this graphic. We want to talk about how we got here to this $8. You know, how we got here to this $8 is very important. And I wrote down some of it. The Senate 48 was reviewed, but it's not just that, okay? It's not just that. It's also the exclusion of New Deal programs where they crafted the New Deal in a way that gave states the ability to control the money. So especially the GI Bill. So the Southern Democrats, they actually would not sign the New Deal legislation unless it allowed to craft it in a way that disables the freedom from being able to give people access to these new programs. Whether it be Social Security, that's why many of the jobs that people work are parents and grandparents and great-grandparents work under the New Deal program. A lot of the jobs, whether you were a field hand, whether you were somebody that was a bellhop or somebody that was a servant, those jobs, they didn't qualify for minimum wage, they didn't qualify for Social Security. So they didn't have the protection that they got included in the New Deal programs. And then they gave the states the ability to oversee the administering of the GI Bill benefits, so that, I know in Mississippi you had, like, I think it was 1947, you had, I think it was something like 3,000 or a couple thousand people that actually received GI Bill benefits that year, and only like 2 of them were free. How was that justice? So then you think about the red line and the horrible lending policies that came, and you just look at your community, just look at what neighborhoods. It's not just segregation because people want to live around black folks. It's not just segregation just because we had so much money, so we wanted to build huge estates. No, look at the neighborhoods. That's not the reality. It's because of federal policy and local policy and policy of corporations, how they want to do that create that divide today. So the bills that we have introduced that we need support for, we need co-sponsorship for, they can create poverty and homeownership grants, business capital, and definitely for Bostonians who are descendants of people that were emancipated from chattel slavery. Very important. Okay? Let me go to the next slide. So, I can't see, but, we did need to move around, we can love a little bit. Quick show of hands, who grew up in Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan? Okay, now keep your hand up if you still live there today. Okay, good. I hope the number's high. But the unfortunate reality is many folks have not currently still live there. And gentrification is just a fancy word for prices out on paychecks. And that's essentially what happened. People got to get priced out. So the exodus, think about it, right? Like just look at the communities and how it's changed over the landscape communities over time. The exodus is community power, but poverty hasn't left the people. Let's rewind a century and see how stubborn that poverty line really is. For gentrification, it's not a buzzword. It's physically reshaping where Boston's Freedmen families live. While the overall Boston population remains sizable, a growing share is foreign-born. U.S.-born Black Bostonians, those directly descended from those enslaved in America, are leaving poor neighborhoods due to the skyrocketing housing costs. This demographic shift makes it even more urgent to enact reparative policy before Freedmen vanished from the city fabric. Gentrification weakens community institutions and reduces political power of Freedmen voters inside city limits. And the two bills that we talked about, H 1696 and HB 3879, they can slow the displacement via down payment grants and property tax relief for eligible Freedmen households. These are just some of the examples, right? But you've seen it. I don't know if probably pictures required, you've seen it. This line right here, you see on this first graph, this is the population rise, Black Boston, U.S. North Boston population rise, and this is the decline. Look how strong this decline is in the last, what is that, 15 years. But, you know, when I say Black, we gotta understand, and this is no slight to anybody, we have to understand what we're talking about, because every community, every group of people has a right to their own self-identity, and they have their own uniqueness, and just like American freedmen do, okay? So, it should never be an issue, but we have to point out the distinction, because the freedmen have been here for generations, they've endured, all kind of terrible atrocities, and now we need specific repair, specific policies that address based on our conditions. So these are talking about poverty rates, but you look at it, and I have these numbers here, this chart, it's showing you like, okay, the light is the white poverty, and the black is the blue is the white is the black poverty. And as you see, it hasn't really changed much since in the last 100 years. It's not really significant change in terms of the relative position. Like the gap between this poverty gap has not really changed much. And it's still too astronomically high for as far as black poverty. That's amongst the freedmen. Immigrant black show higher incomes, lower poverty. And what happens when you don't have this disaggregated data, it actually masks the freedmen hardship. And you gotta understand, even if you see some of the numbers that are simple, okay? Why freedmen have a low wealth, and why other groups that may identify as black as well have low wealth there for different reasons, right? You're talking about intergenerational asset denial versus the challenge of being a new migrant to a country in 1 or 2 generations. They take you, especially if you're coming from a poverty background in that country, or relative to America. So these distinctions have to be understood. Just you can't look at people, oh, they're black and they're poor. Okay, why freedmen is poor for generations is different than why somebody else that just arrived in America from maybe a poor country is poor. Okay? And we also talk about structural barriers beyond income. Let's look at incarceration rate. The black Boston incarceration rate is 4.1 times higher than white rate. We have 808 incarcerations per 100,000 residents in Massachusetts. We talk about black mass residents incarceration. Compared to only 196, so we're talking about a fourth. More than a quarter of the black incarceration rate. Yet, only 3% business ownership. We're talking about black-owned businesses in Boston. And again, these numbers are not disaggregated for free. So this is why we talk about the legal pillar, freedom legal status. We talk about the freedom political status. We talk about the freedom socioeconomic status, being at the bottom of the bottom. Now we're going to talk about why freedom status warrants legal protection. In other words, being a protected class. So, if you think about Harvard's race plan, that got struck down, right? And when I talk about Harvard's race plan, I'm talking about their their student admissions plan. You know, they plan for admissions. They got struck down by the Supreme Court, was it 2023, the ruling came out. Whereas the Japanese Americans, they got their reparations, and it never got challenged. There was never even a challenge about whether or not that was constitutional. So their redress was up there. What's the difference? The difference is status. You know, the difference is status. So when you think about freedmen as protected class status, we got recognizing freedmen as a protected class at the top, but it's anchored in historical precedent. You know, the fact that the Japanese Americans were able to get theirs using status. See, the reparations that went to the Japanese Americans, it didn't go to them because they were Asian, because they were members of the Asian race. So at that time, it was the Oriental race. Nobody was African. We don't use those terminology. We say Asian American. So, but they didn't get it because they were Asian or Oriental. They got it because they had a specific harm that was government inflicted, and they had that status of internment camp victim. That was their status. Okay, so they didn't have to trigger the doctrine of strict scrutiny, which is the highest form of judicial scrutiny. It passed that, it didn't even get challenged. Okay, and also constitutional authority. I mentioned the 13th Amendment as Section 2, where Congress actually is empowered to end the bad detentions of slavery. They're empowered to do remedial justice. And even in the Harvard ruling, a lot of people don't know this, and they not even follow, but Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Thomas both affirmed freedmen status. They made a distinction between freedmen and what quote-unquote blacks writ large. You know, in other words, they say special benefit is given to the descendants of those in that state. The freedmen did not constitute a race-based discrimination. Okay? So very, very important. So for anybody that's looking, any lawmaker, whether you're in the city, whether you're in the state level or the federal level, you can craft and create policy that allows freedmen to be a protected class, just like veterans protected class, just like disabled people protected class, just like protected classes of Native Americans, Japanese Americans, and so on and so forth. Why, if all those people can have a protected class status, why in the world would the group who went through the most harm in America not have a protected class status? So this is why this is an emergency. We're talking about H6096 is an emergency bill. This should have happened. This is something that should have been implemented a long time ago. So I'll wrap it up here. I only got a couple more slides though, but I just want to give you a summary of status-based versus race-based programs. So one side keeps crashing in the course. The other side keeps winning. So which one should Boston and which one should Mass pick? Obviously status-based. If you look at like strict scrutiny, okay, in the Supreme Court, it's like a 7-foot high like high jump bar. Whereas, you know, when you look at it from things from a status, you take a status-based approach, it's like waist high. So you don't have to really trip up and fall on your neck. So judicial test, race-based, you're gonna fall under strict scrutiny. Status-based, you're really needing a specific constitutional harm. The historical link on race-based is a broad racial category, which always gets you in trouble, right? These people, they're trying to shut down everything. Y'all heard about the Fearless One, they shut them down because they other reparation programs, Evanston, Illinois, you know, they're getting challenged and they're getting shut down. Why? Because they're doing race-based reparations or race-based policy, which you can't do. Unfortunately, I know we got a whole race where they had race targeted policy. But the deal is, you have to make a race-neutral remedy. And the answer to that is you do a remedy based on harm. Okay? So I'm not going to get into all the rest of this. Just understand that Harvard got struck down, and civil liberties act of 1988 got upheld for the Japanese Americans. And so there's another argument, and I got to there's another argument. This is kind of for the legal minds. A little bit,
like we gotta put Naheem in.
but I just want to show you in 30 seconds why this argument that's coming from Cameron Norris, this is the guy who fought on the side of the Students Reparations that basically gutted race-based affirmative actions in college admissions. He's against reparations, I would assume. And this other guy, Andrew Quino, he's out of California. He's very outspoken. And so you got one dude on the East Coast, one dude on the West Coast, and they both use a different approach. So we say, well, hey, it's not because of race, it's because of freedmen. We got freedmen lineages. We went through harms. They're saying, well, that's still violating the Constitution because you can't discriminate based on ancestry. But I want to tell you why it's a paper title. First, by show of hands, who here is a military veteran or a child of a veteran? You can put your hand up. Okay. Well, congratulations, you already benefited from a status-based program. You already did. Okay, just like the GI Bill awarded service status, freedmen programs prepare enslavement status. So if you were enslaved and emancipated in America, that freedmen program, you will be protected to receive special benefits based on it. That's it. Not because you're black, and not because of that, it's because of the freedmen status. So again, status is not equal race. Status answers, what did the government do to you, the ancestor? So I want you to think about that. Now, armed with these four pillars, they're ironclad, and the Constitution is green light. The next step is action. We got to map the road from Juneteenth to policy adoption, and that's really what we're going to understand today. We got to have careful design. We have to establish precedent. We should support constitutional foundation. And I don't have any problem supplying this presentation out. For those in the room who want to use some of our sources for a guide, but I want to open it up for questions and answers.
So can we please give Josh a huge round of applause? We're going to go on to Brother Naheem because we want to get to him and then do Q&A at the end. So Brother Naheem is queued up to speak now, and then we can come back and ask any questions with regards to Ali, Josh, or Naheem. I'm making arrangements with them to email them to everybody once they have them all together, which we got that done right before we got here. I'm making arrangements so that we can have Khalid email them out to everybody. Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah.
I can't hear anybody.
Can you hear me, Josh? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Josh? So Naheem is on. Okay, Naheem, you're set to go.
Yes. Share it to Josh.
So can Josh hear you? Can Josh hear you guys? Okay, can you tell him to start Naheem's presentation? Thank you so much. Okay. After Naheem does his presentation, those who have questions, please step to the mic and line up so we can go through the questions. Again, I'm making provisions to get all three presentations emailed to everybody who's here. I'm going to ask Khalid to email blast everybody with the presentations for your future reference. Has everybody filled out their evaluations? It's really important that we do that. You're first, Samuel. I got you first for a question. You need one? It's on the chairs. Here you go. You better go walk around and pick it up. So who does? Josh? Okay. Okay, so Naheem, can you please text Josh and tell him to stop sharing his screen? Are you able to do that? Is it there now? I just texted him. Is it there now?
Yeah, it should be all set. It's just, there we go.
Okay, there we go.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to move this along quick because I know they're pressed for time. So this is the Freedmen movement, from civil rights to civic power. I introduced myself earlier on, so for the sake of time, I'm gonna try to get through as much of this as I can. The Freedmen movement, from civil rights to civic power. The Freedmen movement represents the next evolutionary phase of civil rights advocacy in America. While the civil rights era secured critical legal protections, this transformative movement specifically focuses on the social and economic advancement of American freedmen families, those descended from persons emancipated in the United States. This presentation explores how this identity-anchored, data-driven movement emphasizes repair over representation, self-determination over symbolism, and concrete political power over mere improvement, creating a pathway to true equity and justice for those most harmed by America's history. So this movement is rooted in a historical foundation. It is identity anchored. This is why we stress the American freedmen, and it's data-driven, This movement leverages this aggregated data to make visible the specific economic, health, and educational disparities facing American freedmen families, enabling precisely targeted intervention. Precisely targeted at the people who need it most. $8 is the median net worth for most American freedmen families in Boston. You can target that because we know that in that same color of wealth report that other black groups their networks are showing $13,000, for instance, median net worth for black Caribbean families in the city of Boston. Why the civil rights framework needed an uplift, right? And I'm going to try to give you some of this as quick as possible, right? The civil rights movement was focused on integration and equality. It had a broader black identity framework that carried us into today's days and time. A rightful emphasis on desegregation. Civil inclusion was the primary goal, and it had a race-only data approach. There were many different people that were connected with the movement, and then eventually the American freedmen got left behind. What this movement does, and what it focuses on, is empowerment and repair. It focuses on American family freedmen lineage, meaning establishing the Office of the Freedmen Affairs in the state of Massachusetts and doing genealogical traces so that we can know who our direct descendants are in this nation. It places an emphasis on restitution and our own political autonomy. Political consolidation is our primary goal, and this aggregated data by family history is of great importance to what we're doing in this broader movement. So, I'm gonna, for the sake of time, I'm gonna stop my presentation, and let me jump on the camera real quick and say peace to everybody first and foremost. You were able to hear our brother Josh, you were able to hear our brother Ali give a breakdown to what it is that we represent as United Sons and Daughters of Freedom. As I stated earlier, many of you were in attendance when we had the debate with NARC and COBRA, and you were able to see the difference between those of us that are wavers of this American flag versus those who wave the flag of the red, black, and the green. There is an obvious difference there. There are some people that are anti-American and yet still pushing for America to give something to our people. We are pro-American. Our colors are the red, the white, and the blue. And we understand that it is our ancestors that built this country. Our ancestors built this country. We've been citizens in this country from day one. And that is important to know as we move forward in this fight for remedial justice. Much of our historical advocacy work starts right here in the state of Massachusetts. The first Jim Crow laws start right here in the state of Massachusetts. For the sake of time, I'm going to end it. I don't know if we're going to have any time for any Q&A, but I want to thank you all. I want to thank Sister Antonia. I want to thank the Reparations Task Force of Boston and everybody that came out to hear what it is that we had to present. I am honored and I am pleased.
Thank you. Can we give Brother Naheem a huge round of applause as well? Can we give the whole United Sons and Daughters a huge applause? I just want to say that these brothers spend their life compiling data on our history, going back from enslavement to current day, and they go from state to state putting the stats together for how we've been impacting each state. So I have 1,000% comfort in the data that they present, and that's why I thought it was important to share it with you guys today and tie it into Juneteenth. So I want to say thank you so much for all of you all coming and listening. This is really powerful information. I'm going to do whatever I can to get it to you in an email. I just talked to Khalid. We're going to quickly do questions, Q&A. So Sam, you had a question. Sam? And can you just say specifically to whom you're referencing it to, Sam, if you don't mind? Was it Ali, Josh, or Naheem?
Well, I think that this is more of a, I would say, mutual understanding, because I think that part of what is very helpful, and I definitely want to give a shout out to Frugal Bookstore again.
Can we give him a huge shout out again, please? Thank you.
And for those who don't know, I've been working with the sister and the brothers for a while. We've been working on this one book. So I wanna uplift the moment, mainly because this has been a long time coming, because the whole idea is we want everyone to literally be on the same page.
Exactly.
So my question really is, if we can, as we turn to the same page, really define what it means to be a freedman versus a slave, and really wrap our heads around all of that. Because I remember some of the sisters that left, they were very upset.
They were.
About that. And I think, talked to them. And I think part of that is because when the Europeans left their continent in Europe, which people debate is really part of Asia, but that's a whole nother conversation. When they left Eurasia, came over here, they tried to use the argument that Rome and all these other people had slaves, and that's why they thought that they could kidnap people, bring them over here, and use that same terminology. And people do that
today too, like there were slaves here and there in Guinea and Nice.
Right, but the point is, and what we have to basically say is, for legal terminology, is that these people were kidnapped. And that is really why the Supreme Court said, in the case of the Amistad, that those Africans had the right to kill everybody on the ship, and they were innocent because they had been kidnapped. They were already free, you kidnapped them, and so they have a right to free themselves.
It's human
trafficking. That was the whole point. So when we start calling our ancestors slaves, I feel like it's disrespectful, because they were always free. So we didn't need someone else to free them for us, because they were always free. And even if you look at the history, and I think that this is why we are called freedmen and all these other terms, is because now we need to be free mentally. And I think that mentally we're not there yet, being on the same page, which is why I want to redirect people back to this book. So my very last question is, how many people have read this book?
Oh, I have twice. I read both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was
the black.
Maybe we can start having that conversation after we read this book again together. But thank you, sister.
No, thank you. So is your question for the brothers to answer? What's the difference between being enslaved and being a freedman? Is that what I got out of your question?
it's a lawyer question because I know the answer. But yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate you coming to play. Can you reach the microphone?
I think I did it, yes.
Okay, there you go.
All right, good. First time I fixed the mic. Okay, I want to say something about the one comment that was made. I'm all set, please.
Yeah, he can adjust it for you. He's being a gentleman.
I'm so proud of doing it myself.
I know.
All right.
They don't want to see the microphone.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, you know, Josh mentioned, he talked about the stain of slavery.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say, the stain is not yours. The stain is because I'm Irish background. I know my culture. And part of Europe, there was a blindness. And the blindness was about having no idea how to work with the people they conquered. There's a piece on just recently about the Belgium conference in Europe where I'm not going into the African thing, but all the European heads of Portugal and France and Europe, they all met together, and it was for a whole conference to divide up Africa. And the person who Ashley B or whatever, she's a great speaker on Instagram, and she said, there wasn't a single African person there to work with them.
So is your question for us to clarify what the stain of slavery is? The reason why I'm asking is we have 5 people behind you.
I'm sorry, I don't want to be rushed.
No. I'm just asking for the brothers. Are you asking them to clarify the stain of slavery? I know what it is, but would you like them to clarify
Excuse me, I'm saying it's not your stain. I know what he's talking about. I know exactly what he is. And it's my culture that gave you that stain.
Right, but we still carry it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm right. Believe me,
Okay.
I understand it there. I just want people to realize, because unfortunately that's kind of what happens when people put you down and leave you out and mixed up and everything else. Eventually you feel like it's my stain.
Okay.
It's not my stain.
But that's how our people have been made to feel. Yeah,
exactly.
I understand what you're saying.
That's exactly
So let
what
me
I'm
have
saying.
one of the brothers clarify it real quick. Who wants to answer that question? Josh, Ali, or either Naheem? Can you go into more depth about the stain of slavery? I wanted to get that piece first. Yes. I heard what she said. I wanted to get that piece first. Josh, do you want to clarify for the stain of slavery and why we feel like we hold the stain of slavery?
Can you hear me okay?
I'm sorry? We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Well, but I'll just say this. What this woman is saying is correct here. The stain is given to us by but yet still the bottom line remains is that it's a stain that we carry, whether we carry it, if it's something that we should be, no, we don't agree that we should be carrying the stain. But the stain remains with us because of the way that society views us. And like Josh says, our status of standing in the society dictates that. It's not something that we really have control over. This is the very reason that we are here today looking for a remedy or remedial justice to remedy that stain, to erase that and to remove that from our people once and for all. Until we can remedy that, that's going to remain. Right? And so that's what we're saying. It's not whether or not somebody gave it to us, whether or not we should have it or not. We know we shouldn't have it. But it continues on generation after generation because it has never been remedied. And that's the very thing that we're talking about.
And on a daily basis, we're constantly reminded of it. And that's what I want to make sure to clarify for you. So finish your statement.
Sure, exactly. Because the thing that I just wanted to say is that the reason, part of the reason why there's a specific American situation, and I'm old enough to have watched it, watched heroes and then being shot down and shot down and shot down when they shouldn't have been shot down. There's things going on that are wonderful. And the point is that some of that happened because my particular culture doesn't want to be criticized.
No.
And so therefore it's like that, and that is what Black Americans can do very well. And who could help them? Of course they can do it well. They've been watching it all this time. They've got something to say. And I think that the issue is, it's a little bit like Trump will never apologize. It's kind of, the culture is a little bit the same. And also the machines that we manage everything. People don't mean harm, but the machines don't give feedback. And so that's just to point that out, that there's there's a resistance to being criticized, which is why they feel differently about the African ones from the American ones. The American ones know what's gone on, and the African ones, are the newer ones or whatever, are not quite so.
So can I shed light on something? As somebody who descends from slavery, I'm 3 generations removed from slavery. My mother was an illegal sharecropper. My grandparents on both sides were sharecroppers because their parents were slaves. So it wasn't that long ago. It's not that white people don't want to be criticized. They don't want to acknowledge it. They want us. They're erasing our history right in front of us. That's why I thought it was so important to do Juneteenth, you know what I'm saying? Because now it's become commercialized across the nation. People get to take a day off, and they don't even know what they're celebrating. Yeah. So it's not that they want to be criticized. We're not criticizing. We're just asking them to acknowledge the harms that they did to our ancestors, and they continue to do to us even today.
It wouldn't hurt us to admit that we were wrong.
Wrong. Exactly wrong. So I just want to make sure you understand the difference for us. We're not in a criticism mode. We're not criticizing them. We want to acknowledge them.
Sorry, but that's my family, and these people need to be criticized. You know, Trump's niece knows what's wrong with that family. People need to we need to join a few critics together because it's a whole world. It's not just Black Americans. It's the world that's being dead.
And so for us, we look at it like the acknowledgement for other people's plights are immediately acknowledged by the original oppressors, but when it comes to us as being Black Americans, American freedmen, it's ignored. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Get over it. Slavery's no longer here. There's no slaves. But immediately, as soon as there is an atrocity with any other race of people, it's like send out the aids, send out the ships. Let's get it going. And so that's really disrespectful to us. It's hurtful. It's painful.
Of course.
That everybody else's plight is acknowledged before ours. In our face. Absolutely. In our face.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about, not criticizing.
With you. You don't have to teach me. I've got
Yes, exactly. And I always appreciate your statements. You always keep it really real, and I really appreciate you. I just wanted to make sure that you heard that piece as a stain of slavery.
Thank you.
Next person, Ms. Sharon.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. 2 questions.
Sure.
One has to do with the brothers that are there. Thank you, sir. And the other one has to do with the meeting times. My question is, when determining reparations for Boston and considering the Great Migration from the South, can reparations be determined on the state level when it comes to Bostonians or freedmen in Massachusetts, or does this have to be dealt with on a federal level? That's the first question.
Okay.
The second question.
Do the first question first.
Okay.
So another colleague and I, along with some of the support from United Sons and Daughters, we did a timeline for Boston. This was Boston's socio-economic timeline. So from 1641 to 1965, you can clearly see who was here, and you can see that they were American freedmen. And so that's a report that I have. I'll be more than willing to share it to you.
That's not my question.
So
that's not my question.
I know what your question is. So in order to get reparations, if you're going to talk about the legacy of slavery, yes. But there's a concerted effort to have reparations for all melanated people. And that's what we're trying to say. We're saying that American freedmen are the people who are the original harm party if you're talking about the legacy of slavery. No. Now, if you just want to talk about people who have been potentially discriminated or racially profiled, that is another set of reparations. But I'll let the brothers answer you, because you're asking me, is it possible with the Great Migration and the numbers, can you on a local level get reparations versus the federal? And you can get both. I know that to be true, and that's what we fight for every day. That's why we have a state bill. So the federal level is a 40 acres and a mule. They owe the original debt of 16 trillion at this point. And that's what Dr. Daugherty's book is all about. However, we're hoping that the local reparations would springboard to the federal to get it recognition. But a good example is Massachusetts is complicit in the fact that it sanctioned slavery, the first colony. So yes, it does have a debt that's owed. So yes, you can do local reparations and federal.
That was kind of my question, but it wasn't. So my question is, how are you going to differentiate between the people who are, is there going to be a specific delineation when it comes to...
that's not what you asked.
Actually, yeah, I did. When it comes to really focusing on Boston and Massachusetts in terms of reparations versus the federal level.
Okay.
It's because there are people that like all my grandparents are Southerners, but I was born here, and there's the legacy of reparations. So how is that going to be differentiated?
We don't know.
Okay, that's the...
We don't know because, let me just make this clear, and we should probably go over the ordinance on every meeting we have. The ordinance says specific recognition and acknowledgement of blacks that descend from slavery in the U.S. that live in Boston. Okay. So I'm answering your question, and that's why I said to you, I did a project from 1641 to 1965. Prior to that, there was 1% any black immigrant that was here. So those numbers can be grounded in local reparations.
I got it. So hold up. So, because there's other people behind me. Okay. So the backup to that question is, I've been here for every single presentation from Northeastern and from Tufts, and there is nothing that backs up what you just said.
Okay, but
wait.
Okay, Sharon, I can't talk about the researchers.
Let me stop. Let me finish asking my question.
I know where you're going.
There is nothing, no you don't, because I haven't said it. There is nothing in those presentations that specifically says the harms that were caused, and therefore you can actually talk about reparations. That's the first question. The second question.
Okay, let's get back to that real quick, because I like to answer things as they come out. I need to answer things as they come out. Have you ever addressed the fact that you weren't comfortable with the fact that neither report that was presented said blacks descend from slavery in the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay, so if you did, let the city handle that. If you sent it to the city, let the city handle that. I have absolutely nothing to do with the researchers. I don't even know what they're presenting because it's not June 30th yet. None of us do. So I can't answer that question. All I can say is when they presented in December, January, and March, the community was asked that if they had any problems, concerns, to email. That's all I can say to you. I can't talk about the researchers today. I really can't.
So I'm just putting it on the record again.
But did you put it on the record by sending an email? Because this is not putting it on the record. This is a presentation. And I think that that's what the confusion is. These brothers are presenting their presentation for their project. And it's kind of unfair to ask that because I wouldn't allow anybody to ask that question through your presentation. So
so hold up. I didn't get to have a question to answer.
Yes, you did.
My presentation, no.
Yes, you did.
You
didn't get to have a Q&A.
I don't want to argue. I want to ask my second question. My second question is, the meetings start in September. This is June. Are there not going to be meetings in July and August?
What are you asking me again? I'm sorry.
Right there, it says third meeting a month, public meeting.
We are off, and I've told you this, and I've told other people this. We are off for July and August. The task force decided to be off in July and August. I clearly said that this is our last community partnership meeting. We're off in July and August. We come back in September. I'm working closely with the communications director, Martine, to put something on for the month of September. It looks like a listening session where everybody can come in and speak their mind. So we had this conversation.
And that's okay. And what I'm saying is I'm advocating because you now have the momentum and you have the people here that are interested in it. And I'm advocating. I don't know if you can do it. I don't know if you can't do it. But I'm advocating as a teacher, I know what it's like when you have a winter break or you have a summer break and you try to regain the momentum with the community. And I'm advocating for there still to be something in July and August.
So when I mentioned this at the last meeting, and when you were told, did you send an email in requesting it? See, this is what I don't understand. I'm going to be very honest. I'm very honest with the community. There's nothing that I know that you don't know about this task force and these meetings. When I ask you all to send emails in to state whatever your concern is, you don't. And then now we're standing in front of a presentation that's supposed to end in 10 minutes, and you're asking me questions about the task force and about policies and procedures. It's not fair. It's not fair to the brothers on the screen. It's not available. It's not fair to the people in the room, and it's not fair to the task force. So what I'm saying to you is, when I spoke of, and when we spoke of previously, that the task force will be out in June and July, my question to you is, did you send an email to the task force saying, I don't think we should do this, I suggest that? Because if you didn't, we can't talk about that right now. You're putting me in a very precarious situation. You really are. And so I can't talk about task force policies and procedures and the city's policies and procedures in the middle of a presentation. So can I just have you step aside, please? Because you're not being fair. And you're really putting me on a spot right now, and I can't answer your question, but talk to the city. They're right there. We can talk to the task force afterwards. It's not fair what you're doing, and I'm not going to engage it.
So what I'm saying to you, There was a question and answer period. I'm trying to kick it down a little bit because the energy is a little wild.
But the question you're asking has nothing to do with these brothers' presentation.
I'm putting it on the record.
Okay, then put it on the record with the city in the corner.
Hold it.
This is not on the record. This is not public comment. This is Q&A about the presentation. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're wrong. You're supposed to be asking questions about the presentation, not trying to put the city or Antonia and throw me underneath the accelerated train. And you're wrong right now. Because this has nothing to do with the presentations that this brother's put together. And guess what? The clock.
You know what? Stop.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'll step aside because there are two other people that need it.
Okay, I thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Woo!
Good evening once again. My name is Miss Grace, and yes, I have had my DNA tested, and I am, on my father's side, a descendant of Ramses III. So that's why it's important for us to connect to Africa. I also want to say to the presenter, he went from, I like to thank him. The children are our future, the youth are our future. So I would like to thank you that you took the time to put together this presentation. And I also would like to say, I'm sorry to all the black youth who didn't grow up like I did, who didn't grow up with a black community, a strong black community intact. You grew up when the community was destroyed, when guns was dropped on our community, when guns and drugs was dropped on our community, when black men was mass incarcerated, when black children were forced into foster care, and black mothers suffered, buried their children, watched their men locked up. So I'm sorry you didn't inherit the black churches teaching us black history. You didn't inherit the black organizations that taught our history. You didn't inherit the black organizations that had free daycare, free after school. You didn't inherit the extended family. Actually, we didn't have to go to daycare. We had our cousins, our aunts, our uncles, our grandparents. So I'm sorry to the black youth of today that you did not have that. Okay, but I'm here to tell you that, for one, you went from the civil rights to, I don't know what you called it, but you forgot the Black Power movement. The Black Power movement came after the Civil Rights Movement. And during that Black Power movement, our people grew. We decided that we wanted to take, we didn't call Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. We called that whole strip the Berry. And we wanted to incorporate this as a black town. So I just want to add that to you, and thank you for presenting today.
Thank you for coming, Ms. Grace. I really appreciate it. Are there any other questions? Do you have a question, ma'am?
Yeah. I want to make a statement. And
can you come a little bit closer so we can hear?
Okay, I want to make a statement.
Yes, thank you.
And then I may have a question. But okay. I wanted to say thank you because I learned a lot today.
Thank you.
That I didn't know.
Thank you.
And I've been operating on a different, I guess, vibe, yes, you would say, in that I'm planning an event that takes us from 1900 to 1965, when we had a Black Wall Street here. And just like the young lady who just spoke, our community was different. And, you know, now I'm teaching and training youth in entrepreneurship who are in DYS.
Wow.
And they didn't even know what the word entrepreneurship meant. And that helped to save us during that time period. So I just wanted to say thank you.
We appreciate you.
I learned a lot. I wasn't focused on reparations because I felt like the Reparations Committee was nothing. I didn't know that you all were so connected and you knew about the laws and things. I haven't been dealing with the laws. But we did do a comprehensive study of black businesses from 1900 to 1965 with Northeastern University. And now we're going to turn some of that information into performance. Our youth are going to perform some and reenact some of that time period. So I have flyers if anybody's interested in participating. And, you know, so I just wanted to say thank you. Not that I agreed with everything, but it's nice to hear another perspective on things. And I think that that's what we have to keep doing.
Yes.
We can't just look at one perspective. You know, I believe strongly in reparations.
Yes.
You know, but I had no idea the little steps that you have to take in order to achieve it.
Yes.
You know, I thought that, honestly, I thought that you all were just chucking and jiving.
And you know what's so funny?
And we weren't going to get it with this particular committee. I mean, and I see my beautiful friend over here who is part of the committee, and I know she's for real.
Yes.
So, thank you.
So I just want to say thank you so much for that statement. Even if we reach one or two people and somebody learns something, it's about exchanging of ideas. It's not debatable. It's not an argument. But I really wanted people to see that we work hard. And we're not working with the ideologies or just what we think. We have backed material to do what we do. You know what I'm saying? We have facts. And I don't want anybody to think that we're just twiddling our thumbs. Right now, from last year to now, we really couldn't do anything because the two researchers were doing their thing, and that's Tufts and Northeastern. Okay, the community partners like the United Sons and Daughters, we had Marlon Salmon, those people came in with their projects. We had to wait for them. So we're not just sitting back not doing anything. We're really working hard to get a comprehensive report and and make the recommendations that are necessary. But we need the community input as well too. So that's why we need you guys. We really appreciate you. Any other questions? You have a question?
Yes, I had passed out these surveys. My name is Mandisha Tyree Armine Albert.
Can I just cut you off for 1 second?
Oh, I'm only giving my information.
I know, but I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you have anything pertaining to the brothers and their presentation? Because we're not doing public comments today. We're just doing...
Oh, well, honey, you need to make that clear.
I did.
I didn't hear you.
I did. So do you have a question for them? That's what I'm asking about their presentation.
Are they online?
Yeah, that's what they're waiting for, people to ask some questions. Yeah, they're waiting.
Yes, I would like to know how long did it take them to collect all that research?
That's a good question. Are you guys there, brothers? Josh?
Go ahead. It's about 5 or 6 years worth of research.
Yeah. For how many years? But how many years of scholarship?
There's a question in the chat.
Okay, how many years of scholarship have you guys been doing to study this? That's what I want people to know. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
What's the call to action that those of us outside of Boston or outside of the state of Massachusetts can do to support your work?
So right now, the task force is in limbo waiting for the report from Northeastern and Tufts. And then the city is getting ready to do their report. So we've also engaged with some other things that we're not really willing to reveal right now because we don't have all the facts. But on a city level, we're okay. It's just about waiting for those who have been contracted to do the reports to get them to us. The deadline was June 30th. We're out for July and August. Hopefully we get that information and can disseminate it over July and August if that's possible. I'm not quite sure those deadlines. I do know in September, we're going to be dealing with the community listening sessions, workshops, according to what the Community Engagement Committee has decided. What you can do for us in Massachusetts is support the state bill that we have. We have an American Freedmen, Office of Freedom Affairs bill in the State House that just left the House Council to have it validated. We also have American Freedmen Commission. So those bills were read, bill number H1696, and also bill number 3879. So So you can support on the state level, but right now, we need the community to be involved and come to the meetings. And that's all I can say. And right now, we're just gearing up to do a huge marketing campaign to get people to come in September to that meeting. I think it's September 15th. If there's no other questions, we're going to dismiss. We're behind time, so I just want to let everybody know. Okay, but did you, I need those. Ms. Janice, do you have a question? Sure. Oh, no problem. I didn't see your hand.
That's okay. My name is Janice McManus, so I'll go through this very quickly. In terms of Juneteenth, both of my families were in South Carolina at that time. Boston has played an intricate part in the establishment of Freedmen schools in the South. Some of the women that were teachers here did go to the South to enhance the literacy of the ex-slaves. There was a Freedmen's Bureau in Boston.
There was.
And the freedmen are as a legal class. The enslaved people did not get their 40 acres and a mule, but the slave owners and slaveholders did receive their reparations, and that's a document that is out there. In a book called Slavery by Another Name, slavery isn't officially dismantled in this country until 1935. So those are my comments for today.
Yes, thank you for that information. Also, the Freedmen's Pension Fund was started here in Massachusetts. Charles Sumner, which was one of our senators, he's the one that petitioned for the Freedmen Bureau on the federal level. So I want people, when the brothers have that information, they spoke, I don't know if you heard that, and that's why I'm going to try to get this PowerPoint to you, but Massachusetts is rich in freedmen history, and also, and actually sanctioned slavery, so that's why I take this so serious. But is everybody okay? Everybody answered, all the questions have been answered? Thank you so much for coming. Can we give the United Sons and Daughters a huge round of applause first? Can we give yourself a huge round of applause? Thank you so much for coming. And please thank Khalid and the AV team. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to see or hear anything right now. So yay. Where's the AV team? Come on over here, say something. We really appreciate you. And thank you to the city. Thank you for making this all happen as well too. I really appreciate everybody. Our next meeting is gonna be on September 15th. We're gonna have a lot of marketing material that comes out to tell you exactly what it's about. So we're gonna need you and more people to come out. Thank you so much.